Europe, who's going to speak about that Assembly's work on the issue, the report need to eradicate statelessness of children. So we very much welcome Manlio Di Stefano.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure for me to be here today on behalf of the Council of Europe. I was looking at the flyers there in the table. It was striking me this one saying in the first line, "Imagine being born invisible." I don't think that anybody could imagine it without having lived in it. So that's why I think this campaign is very, very important, and that's why I'm working on this issue since 1 year now, and I was in the rapporteur for this report that we did in the Council of Europe. The title of this event, Working Together, I think the whole Assembly is fully convinced that this is the key to bringing about change in policies and practice, and thereby resolving critical situations. A successful example of parliamentarians working together is the parliamentary campaign to end migration detention of children. And this was also part of the last report we approved in the Council of Europe about the migrant minors, which is increasing awareness and visibility of this issue through highlighting not only good practices in member states, but also lacunae in legislations and not respect of international treaties. But this is the big issues. I mean, we have all the treaties there, but they are not very well implemented by the member states. The campaign is contributing to new regulations and guidelines and branching out into related topics such as the promotion of child-friendly age assessment procedures. With respect to statelessness, it is clear that only if all countries are convinced that statelessness is to be avoided as a priority will be there any change of granting this fundamental right of an entity. And this is something that I'm also understanding in my day-by-day working in the Italian Parliament. This issue is not very well recognized as fundamental, and this is why a big campaign like this is useful. Up to 70,000 children are born into statelessness in the world each year. As regards refugees and asylum seekers, some are already stateless on arrival in Europe, in which case the situation of their children born in exile needs to be provided for all and the more urgently. But as I pointed out in the report adopted in March this year, for which I was rapporteur on the need to eradicate statelessness of children, the majority of Europe's stateless were born and live in Europe. And this is something shocking. I mean, I was not aware of these values. We think that mostly of them are coming from abroad. Instead, they were born already in Europe. So in the report, the choice was made to name those countries not signatories to the Council of Europe 2006 Convention on Avoidance of Statelessness and the 61 UN Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness, as well as those countries whose legislation does not contain sufficient safeguards against childhood statelessness, in accordance, for instance, with the case law of Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. This was done with aim of showing states that they need to better address the risk of statelessness. Thus, the Parliamentary Assembly has called on Council of Europe member states to review their law and policy frameworks to bring national law into compliance with international instruments and standards, and to ensure that national legislation provides for the granting of nationality to every child born on their territory who will otherwise be stateless. In this area, as in others, working together means close collaboration of the Migration Committee with our major partner, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, also presented here today, for instance, in promoting the establishment or reinforcement of existing statelessness determination procedures. The Assembly recommends that states use the guidelines of the UNHCR to ensure identification, protection, and ultimately facilitate naturalization. The UN Global Action Plan to End Statelessness by 2024 also needs support, both financially and through the implementing of national action plans in collaboration with the UNHCR. From a social and humanitarian point of view, all of us here today know that failure to ensure that every child enjoys the right of a nationality has serious consequences on children, their families, and on societies as a whole. Statelessness brings with discrimination, denial of access to education, and all the other things we have seen in the excellent movie before. Addressing the question of statelessness at the earliest age should prevent the persistence of such problems and situational discrimination into adulthood. Children who have the right to become citizens can truly belong in and contribute to society. The report urges countries to ensure that the birth of every child born in their territory is registered immediately. In particular, in the case of children born into vulnerable communities, like Roma, for example. It is a big issue in Italy where I'm coming from. And it got to the point of the people understanding of the problem and discrimination due to several times to the political campaigns. Finally, parliamentarians need to work together to counter the fear and mistrust which prevail in many countries today, which are being manipulated to reintroduce policies we thought were behind us. Because despite the sobering lesson of the 20th century, imposed statelessness is creeping back, not only as an additional means of punishment for those who have acted violently against our democracies, but also as an undeserved extra burden for people whose only crime is that they and their parents had left their countries of origin and abandoned their nationality in order to survive. To sum up, I believe we are here to reaffirm that comprehensive action is needed to ensure that refugee, asylum seekers, and migrant children, and the children of the refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants are protected from childhood statelessness, taking into account the best interest of the child and the need to prevent exclusion and discrimination in adulthood. We must all continue to work together at our respective levels in order to achieve this goal. And I think that this campaign that has had the first goal to bring us together here today, it's not, I mean, I work in the Council of Europe, and it's clear to me that it's not always easy to bring together the parliamentary, the EU Parliament, the Council of Europe, UNHCR, and all these people coming from the civil society together. So this is a very well first step, and I think that after this campaign we should bring this argument in our countries to have good results in our legislatory framework at the national level. Thank you, everyone.
I think you're absolutely right.